Thank you for tuning in. It's 24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. Robin, I was looking through some old photographs of my mom and dad. I'm going through their things little by little after my dad passed away, 6 years ago or so? My mom about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And when you go through old photos of people and you kind of relive their lives, I guess, maybe even through eyes that weren't even born yet at the time, and meaning my own eyes in some cases. I discovered something kind of interesting, and maybe it's happening to me now, is that we go through periods of our lives where we don't change a whole lot, at least physically.
Right.
Maybe we learn something. Hopefully we learn something along the way, right? And then all of a sudden, like you would look at one picture that looked like, I look at one picture of my dad, and he looked the same as he did like in another picture that was 10 years older. And then in one picture, like suddenly it was a year later, and everything changed. His hair changed, everything changed. Mm-hmm. So it was all of a sudden there was like this new era in his life. I was reading a blog by our next guest, and boy, my goodness, it was almost like synchronicity or something, where the angels were saying, hey, here's another piece of evidence about something. And in fact, our next guest taught me, although she doesn't know it, she taught me a French phrase that sort of applies to this, and she wrote a whole blog on it. And our next guest is, if she doesn't mind me saying, 80-something. I don't know exactly her age. She is an amazing woman, and I'm so pleased to be able to have her on our show. She's been on every show, so it's nice to have her on ours. Natasha Josefowitz, and I pronounce her name hesitantly because I may be mispronouncing it. She'll correct me in just a minute. She has a list of credentials. She's a PhD, first of all. She was a professor of business for 30 years, internationally known keynote speaker. For 10 years, she had her own weekly program on public radio and a monthly segment on TV. She's been on everything from Larry King to Dr. Ruth to CBS News with Dan Rather. Goes on and on and on. She's an author. She's a poet, obviously a philosopher. And I was watching an interview with her on some TV show out in San Diego, I believe, where she was talking to the host and mentioning that she lost her husband and her son in a short period of time. And she has written a book called Living Without the One You Cannot Live Without. This is one of many books that she has written. I couldn't remember how many books are credited to her name. Natasha Josefowitz, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Good morning, Natasha.
You did it perfectly.
Oh, thank you. And are you on the West Coast?
You know what you did? You said something interesting about your father. You know what happens as we age? We don't age in a regular way. In French, they have a word called coup de vieux, which means hit of old. You go along, you don't seem to change, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning, you look in the mirror and says, I think I've aged a few years.
But do your friends notice it before you do?
Yeah, it's just every few years you go bang, down. So.
Yeah, but the word down is the part I don't like. Couldn't we go bang up or something?
I don't say I'm 87. I say I'm going to be 88. It sounds even better.
Yeah, that does sound even better.
So, you know, it's interesting. After my husband died, there's a huge amount of pain. We were very close. We really were in love with each other. And after we would join at the hip, we did everything together. He was a professor of economics. I'm a professor of business. We wrote it. He's dead. I am now kind of this half a couple. And I thought, I wonder if other people feel that way. I wonder how other people mourn.
Yeah.
You all have that much pain. I started interviewing people. I interviewed about over 50 people. And I came up with a list of states that we go through that seems to fit most people. Do you want me to talk about them?
I do, and tell me, is there a difference between the way men grieve compared to women?
That as I was interviewing people, I found the most really surprising things, the way men and women grieve differently. Let me just give you one example. For instance, I mean, you ask people, well, how do you feel about eating alone? What do you do? Well, men stand at the kitchen sink eating a rotisserie chicken with their hands.
Yeah.
Women actually sit down with a plate, a knife, and fork. Also, men don't like to go to grief workshops. They say, I don't want to hear about other people's pain.
Right.
And women do. Also, men show depression differently. Women, well, they have all the usual kinds of, sleep disorders, there's appetite loss, they're crying, they're feeling helpless, they feel isolated, they're exhausted all the time. Men mostly do something totally different. They're very irritable, they have anger outbursts, they do risky behavior, they do substance abuse. When you see that in a man who is grieving, it is depression. It's totally different. The other thing, I would ask a male friend of mine, hey, you have a friend who just lost his wife. How would you help? Oh, he says, we'd take them out for lunch, we'd talk of other things, we'd go play golf. I'd ask a woman, you have a friend who just lost her husband. How would you help? Or I would bring some food to her home and we'd sit and talk.
But they're both talking anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's talking. It's totally different.
So, but is one right and one wrong? I guess that's maybe. I mean, should men be doing it the way women do it, or is it okay for a man to do it the way men do it?
You know what I have found? There is no right way. Everybody has to do it their own way. I once led a grief workshop for grandparents. They had a double whammy. They have their own child who was grieving, and then they lost a grandchild. So one grandmother says, I can't believe it. I go to my daughter's house. There's pictures of the baby everywhere. She's just not moving on. Another grandmother says, I don't believe it. I go to my granddaughter's house. There isn't a single picture of the baby. She's just moved on too quickly. In other words, other people have feelings about one should grieve, but the individual grieves their own way. And there is no right and wrong way. Some people say they've moved on too quickly, they're dating already. Some people say, why haven't they started dating? Whatever. It is someone else's opinion, which usually does not fit at all. So the other thing that I have found about the difference between men and women is that the men's rate of suicide is 6% larger than the general population. But by the end of the year, they are already hooked up with what I call the best casserole. You know the casserole brigade?
No. I see what you. All the women are coming over with food.
I have a joke to tell you which explains everything.
Okay.
This is a joke.
Okay.
A man comes to a retirement community, and the woman says, "Oh, you're a new member." He says, "Yeah." Well, where do you come from? I was in jail. Oh, why were you in jail? I murdered my wife. Ah, you're single.
Oh, that's funny.
But this is a concept. As a man grows older, his pool of available females grows larger. As a woman grows older, her pool goes smaller. So that women have lost a handyman, a computer programmer, a driver. Men have lost a caregiver. That is really more difficult to replace. And this is why, even though they do worse when the wife dies, they do better at the end of the year.
Do you know what I noticed too about the funerals that I've been to is that women will hug, and I'm not an anti-hugger. I'm not against hugging, but it is kind of odd. I felt when my mom died. I had my mom's hairdresser came here and gave. I've known my mom's hairdresser for years.
Yeah.
She never hugged me before, but that day, I mean, she was just crying. I felt so bad for her, but I honestly didn't know what to do with her arms around me, because it was like, well, we're never like this. Arms around me means that, we have a relationship. You know what I mean?
Larry, what's the message? The message is, I'm here for you. And people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So they hug. People are uncomfortable with someone who's lost someone. In fact, most of the people I have interviewed have said they've lost friends because it is so awkward. People say all the wrong things. He's in a better place now. No, he's not. He should be here. You're making lemonade out of lemons. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. So what is really important, I think, when one reads, is to understand the state you're in and to accept that wherever you are, it is okay. The first thing that happens, you're in shock. That is the first thing. And everybody's always in shock. But one of the things I looked at is what I call pre-loss. These are the people who have been caregivers for a long time, maybe years sometimes, then the person dies. So what happens? They have dropped out of the social scene, and now there's a gap in their lives. And so these people really need help the most, because they have to get back to the social scene and somehow fill up the time that they were spent giving care. And even for them, it's shock. And then the shock lasts a few days, and eventually what happens, and that is, I felt it too. I was numb. People saying, I feel nothing. I'm totally numb. It's a strange feeling where you feel confused. You try to make sense out of things. Nothing makes sense. In fact, a friend of mine just here where I live at a retirement community, White Sands. A friend of mine lost her husband a few days ago, and she's walking around saying, I can't think straight. I said, that's normal. If you can't think straight, that's normal. You're being numb stage. In fact, the more abnormal you feel, the more normal it is. If you were normal, I would worry. So, and after that comes disbelief. It's a very strange time.
Wow.
The phone rings. You think, oh, it's my husband. Oh, you hear steps. Oh, it's my wife, and it isn't. In fact, I have a little poem that I wrote about this stage. It's called Maybe. Maybe it's all a mistake. Maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was a bad dream. Maybe it didn't happen. Maybe when I come home tonight, he'll be there saying, hi, how was it? And I'll tell him all about it, except he wasn't there, and so he didn't ask. And so after the disbelief state, what happens is you hit reality. Actually, you're half a couple, and the other person is gone. And this is where there is a lot of mourning, a lot of crying, a lot of saying, I don't know how I'm going to go on. It's a very, very, very tough time.
Yeah.
Eventually, the strange thing that happens that no one has ever looked at, and you know, you this is reality. You now know you're single. You decide, well, you might as well start living again. You go out in the world. What happens? You live in a couple's world. You're all alone. You go to a cocktail party, you stand with your glass in hand, and what happens? Hoping that somebody is going to talk to you.
Yeah.
You go out with friends, you're three. You, the fifth wheel. Nothing really seems to work, and you have to do the next step, which is reinvent yourself. And so I wrote one, it's called Good for Me. Everything is an effort. I make myself go out with friends, go to events, because I know it's good for me. I must make myself do it. It's a conscious effort. I used to look forward to all kinds of things. I don't look forward to anything anymore. I just do it because it's good for me. And that's what I tell people. It's going to be horrible anyhow.
So is it like...
It's going to be horrible if you stay home. It's going to be horrible if you go out. You might as well go out.
So if you go out, in spite of the fact that you don't really want to go out, is that sort of like the philosophy that if you are feeling bad, go ahead and smile anyway, and the smile itself will cause you to feel better? Is it the same thing? You're going out, and just being out will help you feel better?
What it is, it's an interesting thing with the brain. If you... just right now, smile. You feel your muscles in your face. I want everybody who listens to smile.
Smile, Robin.
Okay.
Smile.
Smile. You feel the muscles in your face. Okay, now, your brain thinks something nice is happening, and it sends endorphins. And so because it sends endorphins, you feel better. So when you smile, you feel better. In fact, one of the things that I used to do, when the worse I felt, the more I did it. I go into a dining room where there's a lot of my friends. You know, I'm in a retirement community. I walk in, I feel horrible. I want to crawl. I walk in and I say, hi, everybody. And I'm smiling. And you know what? Within minutes, I feel better.
And they do too.
You've got to do it.
But maybe it brings somebody up in the room as well.
Yes, and people react to you. By the way, you know, when people ask you how you're doing and you feel awful, you say, I'm fine.
Right.
But if you say, I feel terrible, give me a shoulder, I need to cry, people stand there, don't know what to say. And so people say, I'm fine, to protect the other people from being awkward.
And, you know, when there are functions and things, I mean, I've noticed this too, that when a person loses a spouse, they'll be having invitations extended to them. And if they say yes, the invitations will still be extended. But if they start saying no to invitations, eventually those invitations will stop, and then they'll be alone.
This, what you said, is so important. I mean, I hope really people listen to this. You are invited, go. You keep saying no, you won't be invited. Then you're really isolated. There's a 5-liner I wrote. The things I used to care about I no longer do, but I really do care that I don't care about the things I used to care about.
Oh, wow, you're profound.
You know.
Natasha Josefowitz is our guest. Are you in San Diego right now?
I am.
My goodness. Well, thank you for getting up early to talk about this. Your book is called Living Without the One You Cannot Live Without.
You can get it at Amazon. That's right.
But tell me this. In the interview that I watched online that Richard sent us to watch, Richard is our publicist, by the way, is her publicist.
He's wonderful.
The video shows you mentioning the loss of your husband and your son. Did they die close to one another?
My husband died 4 years ago, and my son and my brother died last year.
Oh, my goodness.
When there's a second death, the first death comes back full force, as pain. It is. So let me just finish this one thing. You have to reinvent yourself as an okay new single person, and then you are what I call the new normal. We're never back to being normal, but there's a new normal which works. And so I want to tell everybody, no matter how horrible the pain is, you have to believe that there comes a time where it is less and another time where there is no more.
I guess that's true. My mom went through something similar to what you went through, because my mom lost her husband, my father, and then 2 weeks later, my sister passed away. And,
oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah, and I was with my mom when my sister took her last breath. I was in the hospital with her.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm not looking for sympathy, but I'm just trying to. My mom was such a.
Wait! I'm going to interrupt you. See what you're saying? You just did a real male thing.
But it's an honest thing.
No, wait there. You just said, I'm not looking for sympathy.
I'm not.
Okay, macho Larry, you're not looking for sympathy.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm really not, though. I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you the story because...
No woman would say this. No woman.
Are you sure?
Real male reaction. I'm not looking for sympathy.
All right, well, but let me just finish, let me get to my point. My point was that after this happened to my mom, well, it happened to all of us, obviously, but from my mom's perspective, my mom has also since passed away, by the way. But I watched her, and she had such a positive attitude, and she was also invited by her church to show up at the grievance things, and she didn't want to. She said, I don't want to be around people who are sad. So she did the male thing. She did what you say men do.
Yeah.
And then the pastor said, you know what? I don't want you there for you. I want you there for them, for the others. And of course, the pastor was very smart, because the truth is he wanted her there for herself as well. But that was the pastor's a lady. So the pastor's technique was very effective, because I think it did help my mom to be there with them. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. No, this is good info. This is absolutely good info. But I must laugh at you about. It is funny. I'm not looking for sympathy. Oh my God. You know what it is? You don't want anybody to... all I said was, I'm sorry. That's all I said to you, and you reacted. This is one of the typical things I've been seeing when I look at how men and women grieve differently. No woman would say, I'm not looking for sympathy. No, in fact, they would say, oh, thank you. And if you were here, Larry, I would give you a hug, and you would say, oh my God, why are you hugging me?
Exactly.
All right.
No, but I get it. I mean, it's not that I don't get it. I just don't. We do grieve differently, and.
One of the things is, it also in terms of the way we talk, is because women have a different brain than men do. We have a larger verbal section in our brains, and so we have used many more words. And big boys don't cry. That's how you were raised. And so we also deal with all of life and how we perceive everything and how we grieve and how we heal differently. And we should honor that, and we should respect it. I have a poem I wrote, Taking Care of Her. I must take care of her, this old woman, the one with the bifocals and the hearing aid. I must see to it that she takes her vitamins, takes a walk every day, gets her exercise, makes the right food choices. She must be in bed on time, go out and eat with friends. I must take care of this old woman. No one else will. She is me.
Ah, wow.
There you go.
I didn't see that coming until the very end. Mm-mm. But I do cry. Let me tell you, I just confessed or whatever, told you about my sister passing.
Yes.
My sister passed 2 weeks after my dad. I had that numb feeling at that month.
Did you?
Because I had two people who I loved that just disappeared. And then maybe 6 months later, Robin usually arrives at the radio station just about a half hour after I do. And I was in the production room, which is where there's a computer, and I was looking at some pictures of my sister, believe it or not. And I was crying. I was crying like a baby 6 months after my sister died. And Robin came in, and she knew what I was doing. I didn't want her to see me doing that, but she saw me. And then I had to tell Robin, I said, you know what it is? There was so much grief from my dad. I never really cried for my sister till now. It took me 6 months to finally do that. I don't know why. I mean, it's a psychological thing, I guess.
Yeah. Because you had to be strong.
I can explain this to you. If you were grieving for your father and then start grieving for your sister, that's a double whammy. And your body, your brain could not handle it. So you are protected by your own brain to say, we can do this later. And this is why you first grieve for your father, and when you get a little relief from that grief, you can then grieve about your sister. You know, and people in the middle of pain think, I'll never get better, but you do. And so this is why your own body protected you from doing this. It's really strange, because one of the things that you lose when you lose a sibling, you lose an identity. You are no longer a brother. When you lose your father, you are no longer a son. If you lose a wife, you are no longer a husband. If you lose a child, you are no longer a parent. Do you see what I mean? There's an identity of who you are that is no longer. And so, again, people have never looked at this identity thing. It is so important to realize the loss that you feel in your own personhood. Because not only you were no longer a son, you were now no longer a brother. And that is really hard. So who are you? You are this person without a sister. That's a totally different person.
Yeah. Natasha, I am so honored to be able to say you've been on our show. You've been on every show, and now you've been on AM Ocala Live. The book is called Living Without the One You Cannot Live Without. Natasha's book is available on Amazon and all the other booksellers. And you have a website. What's your website?
Natasha'sWords.com.
Natasha, thank you for being up so early to talk to us. It's an important topic, and call us if you ever want to be on again. We'd love to have you on again.
Okay, and Larry,
yes.
Next time anything bad happens to you, talk to me. I'll help you.
All right, all right.
That.
Isn't that sweet? Right?
That's very nice.
Thank you so much,
Very
Natasha. I appreciate that. That was a nice way to
Bye-bye.
end it. All right, we will move forward. We've got Fox News, and we'll be back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. 2 inmates are dead after the central booking facility for a county jail in Florida explodes.
Over 100 injured.
Injured inmates have been transported to area hospitals under guard.
Escambia County's Kathleen Castro, an investigation is underway as to the cause of the explosion. Heavy rains drenched the region the last couple days. No word if extensive flooding was a factor.
Fox Radio's Jeff Bonasso. Someone new is getting ready to take the wheel at Ford.
Ford Chief Operating Officer Mark Fields will replace Alan Mullally, who is credited with saving the automaker from financial ruin during the recession. Fields, who is 53, has held a number of positions within the company over the last 25 years.
Fox Radio's Jennifer Kuiper, Mullally stepping down July 1st. And more information out about the death of Peaches Geldof, the daughter of Live Aid founder Bob Geldof, a senior British police officer, saying heroin likely played a role in her death. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Mother's Day is right around the corner, and ProFlowers is offering an amazing special. 100 colorful blooms for mom, plus a free glass vase for just $19.99. Go to proflowers.com, look for the radio microphone in the upper right corner, and enter the secret code MUCH. But hurry, this incredible deal expires this Friday. Order now from ProFlowers to get huge savings. You pick the delivery date, and it's guaranteed. 100 colorful blooms for mom, sent fresh from the fields, guaranteed to stay fresh and beautiful for at least a full 7 days for only $19.99. And we'll include a glass vase for free. Remember, flower prices can double Mother's Day week, and this incredible deal expires Friday. The only way to get this amazing deal is to visit proflowers.com. Look for the radio microphone in the upper right corner and enter the secret code MUCH. Go to proflowers.com. Secret code MUCH. That's proflowers.com.
What you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Strawberries versus